My name is Corey Ann Deatley. We're going to wait a minute or two to make sure that everyone is here, but I will go ahead and get us started. We'll do a slow introduction so that people can come in when they're ready. But the purpose of today's programming is for you to get your questions answered about Colgate, depending on where you're at in the process. If you're starting to think 10,000 feet up about schools, thinking about studying in the US, thinking about liberal arts schools, or whether or not you have a solid college list and you're kind of tweaking it a little bit. You're maybe adding one school, taking it away. We want to make sure no matter what that you are getting your questions answered in this process. So feel free to, from the beginning, start throwing in questions in that Q&A, and I will be monitoring that. But if you're here also just to listen today, I've also assembled quite a few questions over the past 2 weeks that I've gotten from international students about Colgate, about campus life, and about the academic experience. So either way, feel free to engage with us in whatever way you feel comfortable with. And my name is Corey Ann Deatley. I don't know if I said that before. And as you can see, I'm a proud alumna of the school as well. And I'm also Colgate's international coordinator. Tess, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. Why don't you start this afternoon by saying where you're from, academic interests, and some extracurricular interests, and we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tess. I'm a junior, and I'm majoring in political science and minoring in psychology, and I'm from Toronto. And here at Colgate, I'm involved with a dance group called Groove, and I also work as an ambassador to Shaw Wellness Institute, which just basically works to promote wellness in all areas of school life.
I appreciate the way that you explain that too, and I'm going to put a pin in that and talk about it, because I think in this pandemic, I imagine you're even busier than you have been in the past, and I think what you do is really important. But first, let's start by having you think back to when you came to Colgate. Were you able to actually visit campus before deciding? What was your own experience like? You're a junior, so this was literally 3 years ago. What can you remember? What would you like to share?
Yeah, I remember. So I visited 2 times before I decided for sure to come here.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, I did. So the first time was kind of like my preliminary college tours. I didn't really have a good idea of where I was going to apply or where I wanted to go. And Colgate was actually the first stop on this long road trip my mom and I took, doing college tours in like New York, New England area. So Colgate was the first one. I remember thinking how pretty it was here, and how just like cute and pretty the town of Hamilton is. So that was kind of my first impression. And I remember going to the bookstore and just being like amazed by how like historical it all looked in there and how like academic. And then, yeah, the campus is just beautiful. That was definitely something that struck me and really set Colgate apart for me. And then the second time I visited was after I had applied and gotten in. I went to a few of the schools that I had gotten into just as like a secondary look and a way to narrow it down. And Colgate, again, like the physical campus really stuck out to me. It's so beautiful. And I still think about that every time I'm on campus. And yeah, and just kind of the people here really stuck out to me compared to all the other schools I visited. Just everything about Colgate had like really good energy and like vibe, for lack of a better word, compared to all the other schools. And I could just really like see myself fitting in here and being a part of the community.
When you think about, here's a fun question: Colgate students in 3 words. What does everyone all have in common?
I would definitely say it's such a community feeling here because it is pretty small of a school. So I would say like supportive to that effect. Like everyone's very trying to build each other up and support one another's endeavors and viewpoints. Then I would also say diverse, just because it's such like so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and it's so amazing to get to really branch out and expand your horizons on so many different things. Like coming from Toronto, I really thought that I had come from kind of a diverse place, and Toronto is diverse, but coming here, like just actually getting to closely interact with people from such different backgrounds for me is really amazing. And as a third word, I would say like fun, adventurous. Like Colgate students always just are looking for a way to have a good time and just make a lot of different things fun and have, yeah, like just having good energy all the time.
I appreciate that you shared that, because I think so often when you look at Colgate on a map, we're in the middle of central New York. We're technically a big liberal arts school, but then we're in this small town. And so for you to talk about this community and talk about this supportiveness, I think is just huge. And even the diversity piece as well, the funness, I think those are actually some really good descriptions of Colgate student life. We haven't talked about the fact that you visited twice and you came and you found that the actual setting was really important to you, and the actual Colgate community. So I'm going to push you a little bit on this. Tell me a little bit more about, when you're thinking about your first year, how did you first make your friends? What advice do you have for students who are getting ready to pack their bags, travel either across the country or just simply a few hours away like you? What advice do you have for those first few weeks at Colgate?
Well, obviously things are a little bit different now because of COVID, but when I first got there, we had a few days of orientation, and during those few days we were mostly with the people who lived on the same floor as us in the same building. So that was definitely a good opportunity to get to know those people, and that even people that I never became super close with, like it's nice to have that connection throughout your whole freshman year so that you kind of have a bond with the people on your floor more than you might otherwise. But I would definitely say that a lot of my close friends came from that, living on my floor. That was a super nice way to meet people. They're close by. It's really like easy to just hang out whenever. And a lot of my close friends to this day are people that were on my floor freshman year. Then also like in classes, freshman year, it's like everyone's kind of looking to find their people and their family for these 4 years. So people are super open to like a lot of different types of people and new experiences and all that. So in terms of advice, like this is so cliche, but I would just say be yourself and like really just be who you are, because if you form a friendship based on something that is not like true to yourself, it's not going to be meaningful, and it's not going to be something that adds to your life. And I think that college is a really good time to figure out what's important to you and who you are, and your friends can really be a part of that, or they can really take away from that depending on how you kind of present yourself and how you end up making your friends. And I think it's just great to bond on like a deeper personal level that is really true to yourself.
Describe one of your best friends.
One of my best friends, her name's Catherine. She's actually like my direct roommate. And yeah, we met freshman year, like very early on. She's an econ major, works at career services. She's just super hardworking, really just understanding, and any problem I have, I can just go to her. That also sounds really cliche, but that is the truth. And yeah, like we just have a lot in common and like really connect on a personal level, like I was saying before. And I remember like the first night we met, I was acting like crazy. Like, I don't know why. I was just really hyper in that time. And I remember like she was just sitting there and I didn't know her. She was in another one of my friends' rooms. And I remember just acting crazy and like was like, oh no, she's gonna think I'm so insane. Like I was just really hyper. And like she always tells me that she saw me acting like that and was like, we could be friends. Like this girl is like being herself right now, and I think we could really be friends. And yeah, we hit it off after that.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. What is something, okay, I'm going to give you one more tough question before I look at some of the questions that students have shared. What is something that if students spend time on the website, if they haven't been able to visit due to COVID or just because they're far away, that is not anywhere that you have to actually experience once you get to campus? Even though I know we throw so much on our website, we email students all the time, what's something that you have to experience?
I think definitely like the people here and the community is just amazing. Like I've been saying, it's like just such a tight knit, really supportive community. And I think even during my 2 visits here, I could feel that. And that was definitely a huge part of the reason why I chose to come here. Um, Another thing is the actual town of Hamilton. I'm sure there's stuff on the website about it, but the people are amazing. Like just the actual physical landscape is amazing. It's so beautiful here, and the pictures sometimes don't even do it justice. It's so beautiful. So that's definitely, those two things would be the main ones for me.
Let's go a little bit further and describe the actual town of Hamilton, because I think all that I've shared is just, it's a small town.
Mm-hmm.
So give us more than that. What makes Hamilton such an important part of the Colgate experience?
Well, it's definitely really small. Like coming from Toronto, I was kind of in shock a little bit at first. It's just like the main town area is just like one intersection basically, but it's really pretty. So that helps. But the people here, like, I feel like broken record, but the people are just so supportive and like ingrained into the Colgate community. It's like there's not a huge separation between the school and the town, which I think is really cool. And I think that's definitely unique. A lot of the other schools I visited, the school's a little bit further from the town, and it was more of a separate, like two separate worlds. But here, I think the community is a huge part of the school, and the school is a huge part of the community. So it just kind of makes for a really amazing dynamic that like makes you feel like such a part of the town, even though like we're just students here for 4 years. But I feel like I'm like a citizen of Hamilton. And I really, yeah, everyone here is just like so nice and like always happy to help. And yeah.
A question has come in about cars. When you moved to campus, or at any point, have you had a car during your experience here at Colgate?
I have a car this year only because my parents weren't allowed to cross the border because of COVID. Like they would have had to quarantine when they got home, which they weren't able to do. So I drove myself this year. But the last 2 years I didn't have car. A couple of my friends did, which was really nice. But honestly, especially your first 2 years, you don't need it a huge amount unless you're planning to go places on your own, I don't know, that are far away. But the cruisers here, which is like the student transport system, are really good. They can take you to the grocery store, they can take you to the drugstore, into town, to the bookstore, like all around campus and the surrounding area. So I would say you don't really need it unless you're planning to go somewhere, but especially like you will know someone with a car that like, yeah, there's enough people that have them.
And the way that you just described this, did you actually leave campus at all in your first year? And if so, where did you go?
I did. I didn't like intentionally go anywhere, but my roommate freshman year had a twin sister who went to school in Ohio, and we picked her up at the airport a couple times. We would go to like Syracuse to go to like Chipotle or wherever.
Really?
Yeah, just like a couple random, but no, I didn't like go anywhere really crazy. Just Syracuse a couple times.
What would you say to students who say, but what do you do on the weekend? Do you ever get bored?
No, I don't think I've ever been bored on a weekend here. Like people are always just outside doing things. Obviously, you'll have homework to do, so there's that to fill your time. I don't know, there's always events going on, like people hanging out. You'll never not have something to do on the weekend for sure. There's also a farmer's market in town on Saturdays, which is super nice. And yeah, town, like you can go to eat, go to the park, you can go hiking on the trails at the top of the hill. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to fill your time.
You also touched on a fun point about just the, oh my gosh, I just blanked. You just touched on a fun point of just like, you'll have enough work to do. And you've also touched on the amount of just like weather So I want to explore both of those things, and a question has come in too. So knowing um, when you were coming in your first year, what was the transition like academically for you? Do you have any particular advice just on managing the workload at a liberal arts college, and even just knowing Colgate's core curriculum? What advice do you have coming in?
I would definitely say be on top of your work from the jump, like from the first first day, like syllabus day of your first semester, because I was not. I was very stressed for a little bit, like until I kind of figured out a routine. So I mean, obviously, there's going to be a transition period, but I would say really try your best to stay on top of things right away so that you're not scrambling like I was, because it was a bit stressful. But yeah, the transition is kind of difficult. I mean, I think it will be no matter what, where you go, where you came from. It's just different, and it's a lot of kind of learning on your own and then bringing it to class to discuss, rather than learning stuff in class and then doing a little bit of homework on your own after. Um, just the way college functions is different than high school and any other type of school you've done before. And it's definitely a lot of work, especially at the beginning. It feels like a lot, and a lot more than you're ever used to, but you'll definitely get used to it. I think, like, I don't know, I've definitely kind of acclimated to the amount of work that college is, especially Colgate. So yeah, you'll get used to it. But freshman year, the beginning, it's kind of tough to stay on top of it, especially like you're meeting so many new people, experiencing so many things. But like you will figure it out. You'll get into a routine. It's just kind of a tough transition at first.
When students are feeling like they're falling behind, what advice do you have for them to actually try to catch up?
I would say kind of like prioritize what you have to do, and just kind of take it in like baby steps, because looking at everything you have to do on your to-do list can seem super overwhelming. But if you kind of look at it and say, okay, this is what I need to do first, this is what I need to do second, and really make like a step-by-step plan, in smaller steps, I think that really helps. And you're like, okay, I'll do this today, this tomorrow, this the next day, and it feels a little bit less scary and daunting.
Literally a step-by-step plan. I like
Yeah.
that. What about the professors? I was hoping you'd say also use the professors too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Did
That's a good one.
was there any time that I mean, you're talking about this as very much this is from your own experience as well too, that particularly in your first semester. So did you was there a particular professor that you worked closely with? Is there anything students should know about just who our professors are on campus?
Yeah, the Colgate professors are amazing. Like the classes are pretty small. It's like similar to high school classes most of the time, like about 20 kids or less even. So it's really amazing. You get to really like build a bond with your professors, and it's nice because you definitely feel more so than at other schools that you can really go to them with anything and any issue. So that's super nice. And yeah, my first semester of freshman year, I had this public health class where we had to use data from our hometown, and kind of worked with it the entire semester. But because I'm Canadian, I was like, my professor wasn't able to get the data for me because it wasn't from like the CDC or anything. So he really like reworked the whole course for me so that I was able to do different projects. And we came up with these projects together, and like saw what he wanted to know, what I was interested in, so that he could build a project for me in that way. Um, and yeah, just things like that. Colgate professors are super willing to do for any student, in my experience at least. And they're super supportive of whatever you want to do. If you have like further interest than in the course, like they're always happy to talk to you at office hours, just even to chat, like if you don't even have a question. So yeah, the faculty is definitely amazing in my experience, and always willing to like go the extra mile.
I love that you said that. Okay. So what is a professor who students should absolutely take a class with when they come to Colgate? Hands down.
Um, hmm. My major advisor is Professor Rosenfeld in the poli sci department, and I might be a little biased, but I really love him as a professor. Um, yeah, I've also had an amazing class with Professor Malikzadeh, which I actually shouldn't even be saying this because I don't even think he works here anymore because he was just visiting, but he was really amazing too. And Professor Simonson, I had a women's studies class with her. She's really amazing as well. Um, yeah, and I mean, every student will have different answers to that question, but yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
there's
why I
so
asked
many
your
amazing
opinion.
professors.
Now, did you know coming in, you're from Canada and you're a poli-sci major. So did you know that you were going to do this when you first came in? What actually sparked this interest? Tell us a little bit about coming to Colgate to actually declaring your major.
Yeah, I've always kind of had an interest in poli sci, and it was definitely on kind of my short list even before coming here. So it was something that I definitely was like, I want to take a poli sci course and see if I like it. Um, but I didn't my first semester here just because that's just the way my courses kind of worked out. I just wasn't in one. And so then second semester, I intentionally enrolled in one so that I was like, I want to try this and see if I like it. And I really did. And that was with Professor Rosenfeld, who's now my advisor. So he definitely like kind of sparked the interest for me. Um, so then my first semester of last year, my sophomore year, I enrolled in a couple poli sci classes and really loved those as well. So I guess I was kind of just like confirming that I liked it. And yeah, then I declared that semester as well. Um, so yeah, I definitely was very undecided, but I would say just like take a huge range of classes. Colgate does definitely encourage students to do that. And there's requirements you have to meet in terms of like areas of study. So you're going to be required to take two sciences, two social sciences, and two humanities. So through those, you can definitely explore a lot of different areas and see what really speaks to you. But I also know people who like know what they're going to major in from their first day, and that doesn't change, and that's also great. But also people who thought they knew what they wanted to major in, and then took other classes and changed it. So there's really no like one path to get to your major, but I would definitely say just explore different things. Even if you think you know what you want to do, I would say feel things out because it might change. And there's a lot of amazing like professors and classes here that could change your mind.
That's good advice. How did you get involved on campus? Was it easy? What should students know about actually joining things?
Every semester there's a huge club fair, and there's so many different options, and it can actually be kind of overwhelming. Like there's just so many clubs you can join and so many different students and like networks going on. But I grew up dancing, so I knew that I wanted to join a dance group. So I kind of like gravitated towards the dance groups at my first club fair that I went to. And I auditioned for a few different ones and ended up in Groove, which is the one I'm still in. Um, but yeah, I would definitely say it's really easy. If you just go to the club fair, sign up for a bunch of different things. Freshman year, I signed up for so many different clubs. I obviously didn't end up staying in them, but it's definitely great to try out a lot of different things because, like, same thing as I was saying with your major, you could really find a new interest um, or change your mind on something. So I would definitely say try as much as you can, and like what seems even remotely interesting to you, just like grab a friend and like try it, even if it's just one day, because you might meet some new people and find something new that you love.
How did you end up getting involved in Shaw?
My friend had been working there freshman year as well, and she would always tell me about it, like about what she was doing there and stuff, and it sounded really amazing to me. So she told me that they were hiring new student employees, and I just applied and luckily got the job. But yeah, it was amazing. Last year, I was working with the Office of Sustainability really closely to plan like wellness and sustainability related events, which I really love doing. And now I'm working, we've kind of restructured the student employees, but I'm working on intellectual wellness this semester, which is in the month of December is Intellectual Wellness Month. So me and a few other Shaw employees are working to plan a lot of programming for that. And we're going to be at home, so it's looking a little different, but it's really cool to kind of expand my wellness knowledge beyond sustainability and work with different offices. And yeah, I really like working at Shaw. I think getting a student job is a really great thing to do because you can get involved in like a specific office and also get paid for it, which is nice. Yeah. A lot of my friends have jobs on campus, like a variety of different ones, and I think they all really appreciate having them.
I'm glad you've echoed that it's easy to get a job, because it is. It truly is as easy as just finding them on the portal and applying.
There's a lot, like a huge variety as well. So it's amazing.
Okay, so there's a question about food that I want to come to, but I do want to just confirm also, thinking about this fall and thinking about the winter, I mean, intellectual wellness in this age of the pandemic, what should, because these students can't participate in that this fall or this semester because they're not yet Colgate students, what should they be doing to actually engage that wellness during this time?
A lot of what we're talking about is like taking effective study breaks, avoiding burnout, not like abusing drugs and alcohol while you're at home or during finals or pre-finals or anything. And I know not all high schools have finals in December, but we do. And that's definitely like our focus for intellectual wellness. But even if you don't, I think it's really important to just kind of work in a way that's sustainable for you and not like work yourself to the bone to the point where you can't do it anymore and you get really like discouraged and kind of over school, or just any intellectual endeavor in general. So yeah, that's definitely what we're focusing on a lot with our programming, is helping people like regenerate themselves after a lot of studying and after a long semester. So yeah, that's definitely our focus. Sustainable studying.
I agree. I think I imagine too that there things that worked for you 2 weeks ago might not work 2 weeks later. So I think it's important to keep even checking in with yourself, just knowing everything else.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so a question that I saw that I came in and I accidentally already answered it. Food. Coming to Colgate, what is something that, I guess, what is your opinion on the food? What should students know about the food? Give your honest opinion here.
Yeah, so our main dining hall here is called Frank. And I personally think Frank food is like really, really good in terms of college food, especially talking to a lot of my friends at Canadian schools, the way they describe their food first year for them. Like, I was so grateful to have Frank food because theirs sounded like way worse. Also, Frank is open. Well, actually, I don't think it is this year because of COVID, but normally it's open 24 hours, which is really nice. So anytime you're craving anything, you can go to Frank. They have a lot of different options. They have gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan stuff, all of that. And pretty much anything you want, they'll have it. So I personally think the food here is really good. Also, the food options in town are amazing. Like Flour and Salt, which is bagels and like bakery type of stuff. Slices is pizza, which is not the best, but it's like it's loved here. Yeah, Fojo Beans has good coffee. Ryeberry is a nice like brunch type of place. So yeah, there's like a lot of different options in town as well, that are really good and really like cherished in the community. Oh, the Eatery, how could I forget? Hamilton Eatery has amazing sandwiches and mac and cheese. So yeah, I think the food overall is really good, in my opinion.
I'm glad that you feel like you're taken care of food-wise, particularly knowing that you're coming from Toronto and you have a wide variety of food options in Toronto. Is there anything that students should know about the actual transition of coming from Canada to the US that students should know, that they should be aware of, that just something that was weird, that was a transition for you about being in the US? You can say politics, but I mean, I kind of think that's an easy answer.
Um, I don't know. Like honestly, coming from Toronto, I would say it's not like a huge transition culturally or anything like that or socially. But I would say like I don't know, my friends and I always will just like joke about how we all like say things differently, but that's not specific to Canadians. Like that's people from Long Island have like a certain accent or like people just have different slang. So we kind of always joke about that, but not like I wasn't I didn't find it to be a crazy transition.
Okay. I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that. I wasn't sure where you were going to go with that. Okay, so we several times now as we've been talking, you've mentioned, oh, things are different this semester, things are different this semester. So students, if you don't know this already, Colgate is in stages of reopening and ranging from gate 0 all the way up to gate 3. And even gate 3 is not entirely reopened. It's limited restrictions compared to gate 0, which was quite literally a 2-week quarantine that everyone participated in. And so we've just recently entered gate 2, which has less restrictions, but is not fully at the limited point yet. So classes are outside, students can eat in dining halls. Our gym has opened up, our pool has opened up. So students are on, so Colgate does feel differently this year. Tess, can I ask you maybe a tough question or two just about the pandemic hitting in March? You went home.
Mm-hmm.
What was the experience of online learning like for you? And I guess I'll start with that question and then I'll go from there.
Um, well, yeah, it was something I'd never done before. It was definitely different. And some of my classes, like obviously we weren't prepared for that at the very beginning. So a lot of my professors as well didn't really know what to do. And it was kind of all of our first time doing this. So there were definitely a few like kinks to work out at the beginning, but all the professors worked super hard to really adapt their courses to the online format. And they were still super available to help us with anything, super understanding if people had issues with anything with the format or just in general. Obviously, there was a lot going on. So, yeah, it was definitely kind of hard at first. We were all really adapting. But I think we kind of got used to it pretty quickly. I feel like the professors did a really great job. They did the best they could have. And yeah, it was just a different semester being at home, having fully online finals, all of that. It was definitely crazy. But I think this semester, we are kind of used to that. And not all classes are online, but some are. And I think that a lot of the professors are a lot better equipped now because they have already had experience doing it. So, and same with the students. So I think that everyone's a lot more used to it and it's definitely going smoother than it did at the very start in March. So that's been really cool to kind of see how college can transition to online. But yeah, it's definitely a different experience, but I'm very grateful that we're able to be back here at all and still be taking class.
Yeah, you brought up a good point that we let any student, if they wanted to, choose whether to return to campus or choose to stay remote. And similarly with our professors, we let them choose whether or not they wanted to teach fully in person, there's only a handful. I mean, it's mostly the professors who have in-person labs that they want to do, or some kind of hybrid or fully remote as well too. So that's, as Tess said, that's most students have some kind of combination of classes that they're taking that are in person and online. So Tess, knowing that we're now in what, 6 weeks, 7 weeks into school, weeks away from that quarantine that you did, what should students be asking colleges when they're looking about and wondering about being supported just through this pandemic? What questions should they ask?
I think in terms of safety, you should definitely ask about like if they're doing quarantine and what their kind of process is with that. I think Colgate's doing a really amazing job with the gates that we have, like the phases of reopening. And I think it's a really unique plan that a lot of schools don't have. Um, so I definitely feel really safe being here with like, we had the quarantine, then we had a very limited kind of openness with the schools. So we were like only allowed to be outside or like in our homes, and we have to wear masks at all time. Now we're at a little bit higher, so that's been interesting. But even though like we have a little bit more freedom with like where we can go and going inside buildings and all that, um, it's still like pretty restricted, and I definitely feel safe about that. So I think you should definitely ask schools kind of their safety procedures. And then in terms of like academic support, social support, all that, you should definitely ask like how freshman orientation and those types of events have been transitioned to online, because that's kind of like key for first year students, like how to meet people. And it's definitely difficult when you have to be restricted in where you can go and who you can see and how many at one time. But I think that there's a lot schools can do to kind of support their first year students in really forming their community. So I think that's definitely something to look out for when you're talking to other schools.
Did you, a question here is about coming across the border. Did you ever have any trouble just through the pandemic moving back? Or just any advice that you have? Just I'm presuming you've driven all the time, you haven't flown in, but any advice or any just words of wisdom?
Yeah, I've never flown. I've taken the train a few times, but I've mostly driven. Um, yeah, I mean, I've never had like huge issues. The only thing I've just had a couple, every semester you have to get your visa signed by the International Students Office. And to do that, you need to get your like tracking number basically from the last time you crossed the border. And just a couple times, my tracking number hasn't like come through on the website where you get it from. But the International Students Office is always super amazing dealing with that type of stuff. They know what to do, and they've always solved the problem for me really quickly. So I've never had like huge issues. Crossing the border to get here during the pandemic was actually like pretty seamless, no issues with that. There were less people there for sure. Didn't have to wait in any kind of line, so that was actually nice. And yeah, I've never really had issues. Even on the train, it's super easy. Like you just have to get off the train, show them your passport and all your documents, and then you just get right back on. And yeah, I've never had any problems.
Okay. I was going to ask you about travel advice, but it seems like you've already given it. Is there anything that students should not forget to pack?
Hmm. I don't know. I can't think of anything like unique other beyond the basic college stuff. I guess now because of the pandemic, it's nice to have like a couple workout things for like small spaces. I brought a yoga mat and like little weights and that type of stuff. So if you want that, that's nice to have for sure.
That is good advice. I've heard in the US there's actually a national weight shortage. And so if you are going to get weights, get them. Yeah, it's a thing. Two of my friends have been unable to secure them. So if you're going to get them in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you, okay. How, there's now a question about career services. And so is there, I mean, your friend is a career services intern, you're a junior. I'm not going to ask you what you're going to do with the rest of your life, but how has Colgate helped support you? Just, you've already talked about determining poli-sci, but just in terms of a career, what have, or I shouldn't say what have you decided, how, at that first question, how has Colgate helped support you just as you're going through this?
Yeah, Colgate has a really amazing career services office. And they have all kinds of different advisors. So they have professional advisors and also like fellow student advisors. So the students typically will like look at your resume, help you with that type of stuff. And the professional advisors will kind of do like higher level stuff, like kind of helping you figure out what you might want to do for your career and what you might want to major in and that type of stuff. So they've definitely helped me a lot. I've had a lot of resume appointments with fellow students and also with some of the professional ones. I've talked to them about um, like what I might want to do. They can help with like applying to graduate school, that type of stuff as well. So they've been super helpful. Colgate also has obviously a lot of alumni, so the alumni can bring jobs here through career services and internships and that type of stuff. So it's very nice to have kind of a connection at a company with a Colgate alum, and career services definitely helps with that. They also have a huge kind of database of alumni and also of job positions. So that's a really great way to find a summer internship or a job for the future, for after graduation, through their website, which is called Handshake. They have a huge list of jobs and they have them in all different industries for all different majors. So yeah, my experience with career services has definitely been super helpful. And I'm sure I will continue to need their help as I get closer to graduation. But yeah, they definitely do amazing work and have helped me a lot personally.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that too. All right, so it looks like we've gotten through all of the questions. So let's end this on a fun note. What do you love the most about this school?
I feel like I've said it before, but definitely the people just make it what it is. And it's such an amazing group and so many different types of people. The professors as well, if I could include them in that, like they really make the academic experience an amazing one. And just like the memories that I have here already in just like my first 2 years and the friendships I made, I feel like have just really changed me and like changed my life. So I definitely think it's the people here, but also again, like it's really beautiful and like is just a super nice campus. So that is something I'm grateful for every single day. And yeah, I feel like that's also really cliche, but
No, I don't
that's how
think
I
so.
feel.
Do you have any final advice to these students as they're heading into their final year at school, thinking whether it's just thinking about studying in the U.S., thinking about like going to a liberal arts school? What final advice do you have for students as they're just knowing that if you're putting yourself back in their shoes?
Yeah, I would definitely say like whatever happens is what's meant to happen. I think it's really easy to be like to like dwell on stuff if something doesn't go the way you wanted it to, but whatever happens, like you'll look back on that and say, oh, thank God that happened, or like, yeah, I can't believe I was worried about that. Like whatever happens, it will be okay and you'll be in a good place.
Tess, thank you so much for taking some of your afternoon with us during, I know this is a busy week for a lot of students. And so thank you. I appreciate it. And students, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I know I've added my email down here, but any questions that you have that come up, whether it's a week from now, 2 weeks from now, I also have Tess's email too. So if you're curious and want to just speak with her directly, you can email me too, and I can give that out. I'm assuming you're okay with that.
Yes,
Tess.
definitely.
but please feel free to let us know how we can be of help. Good luck with your year. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep in touch. Bye, everyone.